Alright, so today we're going to learn the fifth declension, the final declension. No more new noun endings after this. Congratulations, pat yourself on the back, feel pretty good, because you come a long way. And let's start off with the good news, which is that the fifth declension has no neuter nouns. So you don't have to worry about another additional set of endings. It's just one set of endings, reminiscent of what other declension? I'll give you a second to remember the only other declension that doesn't have a neuter gender. Yes, it is the first declension, which is also mostly feminine. And the fifth declension is going to be the same way. The fifth declension is also mostly feminine. So if you see a fifth declension word, your guess should be feminine if you haven't done a good enough job studying your genders. Let's take a look at the forms now. All right, so the noun we're using as an example here is res rei, feminine, and it means thing in the sense of matter or affair. The real reason we use the definition thing when we talk about res rei is that it seems to have so many meanings in Latin that really the closest thing we can get in English is thing. But generally, you're going to want to find a better translation for it when you see it in the context of a sentence. But for our purposes right now, we're just worrying about the form. Things right off the bat that we should pay attention to. We're going to recognize a fifth declension word by EI in the genitive, EI. So if we look at our dictionary info and we see EI, we know it's a fifth declension word, res rei, dies da. Space, spei are other words we're going to see from the fifth declension. And that means that if the ending is ei in the genitive, the stem of this word must be r, and it is r. So now we can look at this, and I'll say it aloud, read through it once for you. Res, rei, rem, re, res, rerum, rebus, res, rebus. And the characteristic vowel is an E, as we can see. There's all E's, even more frequent with the E's than in the third declension. Let's take a closer look. Here are just the endings to allow you to see those a little bit more clearly. And when we look at these, we should see some things that we recognize. Pause the video and see if you can connect some of these endings to places we've seen them before. What other declensions do they call to mind? And if you haven't paused the video, I'm moving on. So I'm going to show you, but you should try and do it on your own first. Here we go. All right, so fifth declension, I've highlighted erum, ebus, and ebus because these forms are very similar to other forms we've seen before, but we've just now replaced other vowels with E's. We've seen orum in the second declension and aurum in the first declension for the genitive plural. And this is the same format, but now instead of an O or an A, we have an E, so arum. So hopefully you'll be able to recognize that ending or take a stab at what what case and number that ending would be if you saw it in the sentence already. But now we're going to learn it with the fifth declension, so arum. And then abus and abus in the dative and ablative plural should remind you of what declensions? Yes, the third and fourth declension which have ibus and ibus here. We've just taken that I and replaced it with an E. So those are all vaguely familiar. It's not totally new stuff. That can help you remember these forms if you get stumped. And now moving on, I've highlighted four more, sorry. M, A, ace, ace. And what do all of these forms have in common? Yes, they have it in common that they're all reminiscent of the third declension, where we had an EM in the accusative singular and an ES in the accusative plural. And we had an ES in the nominative plural. The E with a macron in the ablative singular is a little bit different in the third declension, rege. We did not have, for example, we did not have a macron over the E, which is an E by itself. But the macron returning in the fifth declension reminds us of the A with a macron and O with a macron and U with a macron that we see in the first, second, and fourth declension, respectively. So the third is the only one that doesn't have a macron over that ablative singular. So again, a lot of forms we recognize. To wrap up, essentially looking back at these forms again, the tricky ones are really the first three, but you'll probably remember those the best because when you practice and say your conjugation aloud, race, regi, regi, rem, re, you're going to say that race, regi, regi the most times. So I imagine that you'll be able to get that down just from memorization. Race, regi, regi, rem, re has a nice ring to it as well to help you remember this conjugation. But I would suggest you repeat it to yourself a number more times, reading it aloud and studying it, memorizing it, and then go and see if you can retrieve it as part of your homework on the workbook exercises posted on the portal page. I'll see you.